It was 11:42 p.m. on a Tuesday. My laptop screen was the only source of light in the room, casting this icy blue glow over empty coffee mug and a spreadsheet that had gone completely red. My phone buzzed on my desk, a message from my senior VP, all caps, 5 exclamation marks. My shoulders were practically touching my ears. My jaw was locked so tight my teeth ached. And my breath had turned into this rapid, shallow pant in my upper chest. In that split second, my brain genuinely believed that we were under a mortal attack. Not that a software rollout was delayed by 2 weeks. No, my autonomic nervous system was screaming that our lives were on the line. I shut the laptop, stood up, and looked out the window. And in the reflection of the glass, I didn't see an executive with a decade of leadership experience. I saw someone who had completely forgotten who she was. And that night was my turning point. For years, I lived a double life. By day, a high-stakes corporate arena, navigating enterprise restructuring, steering multi-million-dollar programs, and watching brilliant leaders either ignite their organizations or burn everyone around them to the ground. And by dawn, the yoga mat, studying the rigorous 2,000-year-old psychological science of the mind, breath, and spirit. We are told our entire careers to keep these two worlds behind a firewall. Corporate strategy on the left and the inner peace on the right. Leave your philosophy at the door. It's a lie. Because when the fire alarms go off in a meeting room, you cannot be effective, grounded leader if you're an absolute stranger to your own inner landscape. Welcome to my show. This series exists to bridge that divide, bringing ancient philosophical mastery directly to the trenches of modern executive leadership. Let's dismantle a comfortable corporate myth right now. Culture does not live in an employee handbook. It isn't the inspiring quote framed near the elevator. Culture flows like water, relentlessly, top down. It takes the exact shape, clarity, or toxicity of the container holding it. If a leader at the top is operating out of panic, ego, and untreated anxiety, that poison flows downstream into every cubicle, every Slack channel, and every home of the people they lead. Why? Because the corporate leader is practically engineered to fan the flames of ego. The bigger the title, bigger the bonus. And the easier it is to fall into an ancient psychological trap that sage Patanjali mapped out thousands of years ago. The 5 Kleshas, the unbroken architecture of human suffering. Patanjali taught that our suffering isn't a random collection of unrelated problems. It is one single delusion unraveling across 5 distant stages. To understand how it grips us, imagine a classic analogy by Adi Shankaracharya, the rope and the snake. Picture walking down a gravel road at twilight. The light is fading. You look down and see a thick coiled shape in the dirt. Your brain fires snake. Adrenaline floods your bloodstream, your pupils dilate, your chest constricts, and the terror surges through your veins. The panic is real. The psychological damage is real. You stand frozen, terrified to move, but then you take a lantern, step closer, and shine a light directly on the ground. It's just a piece of coiled hemp rope. The snake was never there. The terror, the suffering, the sleepless night, it was all manufactured by an unexamined mind misinterpreting reality. Now, watch how that exact drama plays out on every leader's day and night, every day. Number 1 is Avidya. It is the core of the illusion, mistaking the rope for a snake. You confuse your job for your essence. You genuinely start believing, I am the VP title. I am the org chart. I am the quarterly forecast. You forget the vast, steady awareness that exists underneath the resume. The second klesha is Asmita, the false I. In other words, the snake that takes the form. Once the rope is mistaken for a snake, the snake gets its own territory. Asmita is drawing a sharp line between me and the rest of the company. Suddenly, you are hoarding credits, you're treating peer departments like hostile competitors, and so on. Then comes Raga, the addictive attachment. Because this manufactured ego feels hollow inside, it craves constant external feeding. Raga has this insatiable need for applause, addiction to being the smartest person in the room, the desperate clinging to status and validation. And then comes Dvesha, aggressive aversion, the inevitable twin of the attachment. When someone challenges your plan, offers critical feedback, or maybe threatens your pet project, the ego lashes out. Dvesha is the defensive rage, the passive-aggressive email at midnight, the shooting of a messenger because you cannot bear the discomfort of being wrong. And finally, the fifth klesha, Abhinivesha, the primal terror of dissolution, the final lock in the chain. And Patanjali notes that this fear spares no one, not even a seasoned scholar or a lifelong practitioner. In corporate life, it is the executive ego death, the primal dread of becoming irrelevant, losing your authority, or failing publicly. Let me share with you a tale of two leaders. I saw this chain reaction tear a team apart a few years back. A senior director that I worked with, let's call him David, was technically brilliant, but his entire self-worth, which is Avidya and Asmita, was wrapped up being viewed as infallible. When a critical platform migration ran into a severe roadblock, David didn't see a complex engineering puzzle. His mind saw a lethal snake. His terror of failure exploded into this defensive aggression. He hauled 20 senior engineers into a glass-walled conference room, slammed his fist on the table, and berated them for 2 straight hours. He demanded round-the-clock status reports and began tracking people's badge swipes. The fallout was heartbreaking. Seasoned engineers stopped speaking up. People worked out of their sheer dread. One lead architect told me his blood pressure spiked so high that his doctors ordered him onto medication. Another spent her weekends crying in her car before walking into the house because she didn't want her kids to see her broken. David's unexamined illusion has poisoned an entire ecosystem. Now let's compare David to Sarah during an equally chaotic organization split. Sarah was a disciplined practitioner of both leadership and inner reflection. When her program hit a massive regulatory roadblock, the meeting room was on edge. Voices were raising. You could cut the tension with a knife. And I watched Sarah do something remarkable. She didn't shout. She didn't get defensive. She leaned back in a chair, took a slow, deep breath in her belly, and dropped her shoulders. She looked at the room and said quietly, "We have a real problem. Our current assumption was wrong. Let's look at the facts without blame and fix it together." Because her internal container was calm, the room decompressed. People started thinking critically again. The team solved the issue in 3 days, and they logged off that Friday night with their health and their dignity intact. Now look at how the modern companies try to solve this breakdown. We bring in expensive consultants for half-day mindfulness and resiliency workshops, or we enroll high-potential emerging leaders into the standard off-the-shelf leadership tracks. We put people in conference rooms, hand them custom notebooks, show them slides on active listening, and guide a brief 5-minute breathing exercise. For the 48 hours, everyone feels inspired. And then Tuesday morning arrives, a production system crashes, revenue misses the target, or an executive escalates on a Slack, and then the entire training vanishes into thin air. Leaders instantly revert to their baseline default behavior, defensiveness, micromanagement, and of course, panic. Why? Because you cannot dismantle deeply conditioned ego survival mechanisms with a slide deck. Or a one-off workshop is merely an intellectual introduction. It is not a nervous system rewiring or a true character transformation. And we make the exact same mistake with our physical wellness. We hit the gym for 45 minutes at 6 a.m., lift heavy weights, run on the treadmill, check the fitness box, and then spend the next 10 hours hyperventilating in the high beta brainwave states, soaking in unmanaged cognitive overload. Lifting weights and attending quarterly mindfulness seminars won't save a disgruntled leader. True resiliency demands a holistic lifestyle approach. We need pranayama and nervous system mastery, so the breath is real-time remote control for the psychology. Slow, deliberate exhalations activate the vagal brake, halting adrenaline surges and restoring executive function in your prefrontal cortex when high-stakes pressure hits. We have to be deliberate in our decompression. True recovery isn't collapsing on the sofa and scroll news feeds. It is intentional, sensory quiet, deep sleep hygiene, and creating white space for your mind to recalibrate. And most importantly, daily Svadhyaya, meaning self-inquiry. The discipline of looking in the mirror every single morning and asking, where am I defending a fake snake today? Am I leading out of service or out of ego protection? When a leader refuses to do their inner work, everyone around them pays the interest on that unmanaged stress. True authority isn't about control, titles, or domination. It's about clarity. It's about having the wisdom to shine a lantern on the path and see the rope for what it truly is. Thank you for joining me on this first episode. And over the coming weeks, we will use elements from yoga and Eastern philosophy of Patanjali Sutras to cultivate this holistic health, resilient leadership, and authentic clarity in our daily lives. Take a deep breath, drop your shoulders, and lead with awareness. I will see you in the next episode. Namaste.